What's going on, everybody? This is a new thing that I'm going to be trying. It's going to be more vlog style-esque strength training and coaching rather than just like workouts that I've been posting, that sort of stuff. I have been a rock climber for, it's coming on about 15 years now, on and off for like 15 years. And I got stationed overseas. I built a rock climbing wall in my barracks room. And yeah, I've just been climbing for a very long time. And the reason I'm not climbing like V15 by now is because I've had my ups and downs. I've gone away from climbing. I've had injuries. I've had, everything you can think of come in the way of my training, my passion for climbing, like fading in and out, and mostly injuries. Like going for the world record for most pull-ups in 24 hours really screwed up my shoulder. I had a lat injury. I broke my wrist. I healed from my broken wrist, but my lat injury was the number one thing. The last time I tried doing these climbing vlogs, I moved to Tennessee. I met a couple of local climbers. One of them's name is Christian Baker. He's a really strong climber. I think he's sent like V11, V12 outside. And so he's a pretty established climber. But I was climbing with him at the point where I was recovering from my injury. And so I was climbing about V2, V3 and like struggling at the time. And so I was in like a really weird state of mind because I was kind of depressed and kind of like, what the heck am I even filming right now? Am I just gonna film other people? But recently, probably like within the last 6 months, I have been really focusing on my climbing training. And I would say I'm back up to a solid like V8 climber status. But being at a V8 level, which I don't know how that converts to like the 8B plus scale or whatever. It's definitely not that, but that other scale. There's the V scale and there's another scale. I can't remember what it's called. But I don't know how that converts over to it, but V8 on the V scale. And so because of my broken wrist and because of my injuries, I've always had this notion in the back of my brain that I'm like, man, I don't have the potential to climb extremely hard anymore. And I kind of gave up my passion for climbing like to a high level because I was just not in a great state of mind due to my injuries and due to just how I was feeling with life and everything else going on, especially because of that injury. When my lat shut down, I couldn't even do pull-ups anymore and like working out was my way of de-stressing. And so I was kind of lost in the sauce for a little bit, for like the past year and a half, basically. And over the last 6 months, I've just progressively been focusing on, I became a coach at my gym. So I teach twice a week climbing, strength training, and some other stuff. But that kind of like rekindled my passion for rock climbing and strength training. And over the course of the past 6 months, I have really focused my training to become stronger for climbing. And so now that I'm back up to about V8, I'm feeling really healthy again. And a lot of that has to do with like stretching techniques and home grip strength training, which is what I'm going to be going through today. But yeah, it's been a crazy ride. And the last time I tried doing these climbing vlogs, I was not in the best state of mind or in the best state physically. And so I'm going to take another crack at it. I'm going to show you my home training that I'm going to be doing today. It's going to be grip strength focused, no chalk because I want to keep my skin fresh for tomorrow because I'm going to be taking my camera and stuff to the gym. And we're just going to try to crush the new set that they put up. My hometown is Murfreesboro, Tennessee, and that's where we'll be climbing tomorrow. And hopefully, I think a few other climbers will be there and they're going to join me in the video making. So today's video is just to take you through a grip strength workout that I'm going to do for myself. One of the reasons I've had a bit of a disconnect as well of like wanting to make these videos is because it's every piece of equipment, like for instance, this piece of equipment here, right? You may have never seen this before because this is not something you can find at a regular gym. This is specific to arm wrestling, specific to forearm strength training, and very specific for one type of muscle strength training. And like, I wouldn't put out a video to the masses of like, okay, make sure you grab your Arm Shark forearm trainers, and because like 3 other people would relate to that. But this is what I use to train. I'm back up to 1-arm pull-ups. I'm back up to, again, V8 status, and I want to get even stronger. I want to get up into the double digits, and I want to do it in a healthy way, and just overcome the mental aspect of having prior injuries. Like, you know, you all have seen my wrist. You can see that it's kind of like a blinding light. Let me turn this down a little bit. So there you go. So as you can see, my wrist is pretty messed up all the way down to my palm. The reason this wrist break was so bad is I do have a metal plate in here, but the reason this is so bad is because when I broke it, I had so much nerve damage. Hopefully it focuses again. I had so much nerve damage that they had to do an emergency second surgery and cut the tendon in my palm, which permanently reduces my grip strength, which, you know, put a lot of thoughts in my head as to, like, there goes my potential for climbing. So basically in the back of my head, I was like, dang, now the mechanical advantage is gone in my hand, and I'm not going to be able to climb as strong as I once was. But I think overcoming injuries as severe as this, and just talking about, like, you know, certain things you have to do in order to compensate, because my left hand is like 40, like on a grip dynameter, those things that measure your grip strength, my left hand is like 40 pounds weaker than my right. I can squeeze, my max I've ever squeezed is like 202 pounds on my right hand, and then the max on this is like 150 maybe, so maybe even more, like 50 pounds difference. And so there's just different things, like if it's an undercling, if you know rock climbing terminology, if there's like an undercling and it's pinchy, like the weakness in my hand is something that I'm trying to overcome by using specific strength tools like this. So yeah, that's kind of the intro into this new series that I'm going to be doing. And I just want to take you all along my strength training and my journey to breach the double digits of climbing. Again, I've only done it one time prior to this in the past. I climbed a V10, and it was indoors, so it's not like it was an outdoor established route. It could have been a soft V10, because all the indoor climbing grades are all arbitrary anyway. They don't really mean anything. If you go climb, let's say Murfreesboro, and you climb V9 in Murfreesboro, and then you go to Orlando, you might be climbing a V6 in Orlando and a V9 in Murfreesboro. It doesn't really matter, but there is a commonality where hopefully there's like an average if you climb enough V8s, enough V9s, which is why I say I'm a V8 climber, because indoor grades, again, I've climbed a couple of V9s indoors, I've climbed a couple of hard V6s indoors elsewhere, but I've climbed V8 pretty consistently in Orlando and just all over the nation to some extent to say that I'm a V8 climber. So with that all being said, I'm going to take you through a very specific grip strength workout that I'm going to be doing. Maybe you can get some cool ideas from this. I'll explain to the best of my ability what I'm doing, because a lot of it I just make up on the go. Like, I don't have a list of specific exercises that I'm going to be doing. I've been doing this for years, so I know kind of like what to expect. So I'll explain it as I go, how I warm up, what muscles I'm trying to target, and then what tools I'm going to be using as well. And I'll throw out some recommendations of, like, because I've tried, you know, thousands of dollars of grip strength tools, and there are a few staple tools that I really stick to using almost every time I train grip strength. Anyway, as you can see, my voice is fading a little bit just because I'm not used to talking to the camera this long. Yeah, let's get into the workout. Hopefully y'all are still here and you want to see what I'm doing for forearms today. All right, so first things first, I am wearing a sweater because it's cold here in Tennessee. It's wintertime. So I want to warm up my grip strength, and my favorite way to warm up grip strength that I've found is using a wrist roller. But this is a specific wrist roller. Obviously it has these giant fat grips on it, and it's the same principle. You attach like a plate to the bottom of it and you roll it up. But the nice part about this is it's connected at the top, and it has some bearings in there that allow this to free spin while being supported. So I'm not relying on my deltoids. I'm just focused on the grip strength warming up. I think this is more of a stamina intensive workout than a grip strength trainer. Great for warming up, but I'll just roll it up to a certain point, and then do like 50 reps of my extensors. I'll flip it around and then do 50 reps of my flexors. And all extensor work means is you're moving your forearms up and out in this motion here. So you're going up. And I also try to squeeze with my thumbs. I'm just trying to get blood to my hands and my forearms and really try to warm up my body. I don't know how many reps I'm at, but I'm just going off a feel right now. And at the ending, we'll say there, I'll just hold in this position and try to let my forearms do most of the work. And then I'll let the weight fall, flip it around, and then I'll do flexors, which is just the opposite direction of movement. And again, I'm just trying to pump up my forearms, but not too much to the point where I'm incapable of doing anything else. Just trying to get some blood and movement, and I'll kind of go a little quicker. But this is a great tool for warming up, because if I were to hold this weight like this, 45 pounds extended, it would be near impossible for me to hold this the whole time. My deltoids would get worked out more than my forearms would. And so that's why I like this setup, because it works really well and it isolates the forearms and the grip strength. I'll do about 3 sets of this just to get the blood flowing and everything warmed up before I move into the next exercise, which is the first strength training exercise. But this is a great tool for warming up. I think it's like called like the Grip Freaks Grip Twister or something. I'll try to look up all the names of stuff, and as we go through this, I'll get more specific, and I'll probably just do like spot reviews of certain pieces of equipment that I really think are great for warming up and tools that I use. But this is specific to warm up. I won't use this for strength training, and I'll do 2 more sets. So I'll see you all at the next exercise. All right, now that I have the blood flowing in my forearms and they feel pretty good, not like totally warmed up, I'm gonna move into another super specific piece of equipment that is made by Arm Strength Assassin. Really long-winded name, but this dude makes some of the coolest equipment, and he was nice enough to send me some to try out. This is like the V curl bar. I'm gonna go a little closer so you can see it. But yeah, this is a V curl bar. But the neat part about this is, look at this. I think it's like a bike chain or something that he put on it. So whenever I do curls, I'm pulling up, like, you know, a normal curl, you would pull upwards like this to work your biceps. But this causes rotation at the same time. So as I pull up, I have to rotate against that resistance in order to get the full contraction. And so what that's doing is it's rotating my forearms forward as well. So we're also getting a really good forearm flexor isolation as well as a bicep connection. So it's not just, you know, trying to isolate my biceps, because I could give 2 craps about hypertrophy in my biceps. I'm not trying to become a bodybuilder or like compete in an aesthetic competition. I am trying to gain strength with maintaining a certain body weight to strength ratio. So, you know, obviously as you gain strength and muscle, you will gain a little bit of weight, but I like to plateau and maximize my strength while also keeping my weight a little lower. But this tool is crazy. And again, it's not something that you'll find. I don't know anybody else who has one of these right now. Maybe some arm wrestlers. I think he specifically, he builds all these pieces of equipment, but he usually, his clientele is, or customers will be arm wrestlers. And yeah, super cool tool. And before I hooked it up to the pulley, I wanted to show you just the mechanics of how it looks. So it's like, get my face out of this so it focuses on it. So it's a chain that goes around, and you can see how it rotates. And so as I connect it to the pulley, I'll have to rotate it to get it to fully engage. So this is my next, kind of like, I like to ramp up as I get into my workouts. So first thing I'm starting off with is a pure warm-up, just stimulating exercise with these grip twisters. Now I'm going to activate more of the arms and the arm flexors at the same time, and this is a beautiful tool to do that. I'll lower this to it's the lowest spot it'll go. And the thing is, you don't go too heavy with this either because of the rotation and the grip that it takes to pull on this. You don't have to go super heavy. So as you can see, I might actually have to stand up to do this, but as you can see, I'll pull and I'll come back with that. And as you'll notice, it rotates. So I'm gonna do like 8 to 10 reps. And there's not a whole lot of things that can mimic that flexion that happens, because I feel that directly in my elbow connection and my pinch strength, because I'm squeezing those handles so hard to resist against that rotation. And it's just a really good ramping exercise into the pure isolation that I'm about to get into. So I'm gonna do probably 3 sets of this at 8 to 10 reps. We might come back to it at the end just as a little burnout set, but yeah, great ramping tool, and extremely good at isolating this area right here, which is what I'm looking for. All right, so now let's talk about the arm shark, forearm, whatever you want to call it, flexor. It really, for me, it isolates this connection between my wrist here, which if you've ever rock climbed before, there's a lot of people who will tape their wrist here because that'll pop out sometimes because of a weak connection here. And if you struggle with weak wrists, especially in rock climbing, this is a great tool that can help solve that problem. They are pricey, which is kind of weird because this is like 3D printed and it shouldn't cost that much, but I guess you pay for the brand Arm Shark. They're like a staple in the arm wrestling community. But just to show you what this looks like up close, you'll put your hand through like this. Oh, you gotta make sure your wrists don't have anything on your wrist because it'll really hurt. So this locks your wrists into place here, and you're using your fingertips as a pull. So you're pulling directly into that wrist, just like this. And this is obviously connected to the pulley. And so we're pulling like this, and this is the resistance here. So I bought 2 of these because I'm not an arm wrestler and I want to train both arms at the same time. And so I bought 2 of these things, and they're like $60 a piece. So kind of pricey, but it's worth it because I can do the workout in double the time. And time is money to some extent as well. So I'll set these up even on both sides, just like that. And then I'm not gonna put too much weight on here. I think like this is a double pulley machine, so it says 40 pounds or it has the number 4, but I think it equates to 20 pounds. So I'll clip these on and I'll lock my wrists into place, which is kind of an annoying process, but I'll get one seated, I'll get the other seated, and then I will start flexing. No rep scheme in mind, just trying to get a nice strength workout in the same spot on both arms. So I'll tuck my elbows in close and just pull that weight down, and I'm putting a lot of pressure on my fingertips. And then sometimes I'll just sit in the flex position, kind of open up a bit that way, because I love training isometrics. I think they're great.
And they're a great way to help stimulate the exercise as well instead of just banging out reps. So I'll try to target the exact area that I'm trying to work on, which is that wrist connection, and then do a few more reps. And if you've ever done this, it gives you one of the worst burns on the planet. Yeah, I can feel that all the way down my wrist connection, even in my lower elbow here. So these are a great tool for isolating those specific flexor areas. And yeah, I'll spend probably like 4 or 5 sets here. I won't put you through that, but 4 or 5 sets. I'm gonna rest about a minute to a minute and a half, so 60 to 90 seconds between each set, and then really just focus on hammering, because this is where the meat and potatoes of my workout come in. I'm really hammering on those flexors, and then we're gonna do some open hand stuff and some Oner Deviation as well with some tools that I made. I'll show you those next. But finish off with the fingers. Not gonna go too hard with the fingers because I do wanna have some grip left for tomorrow's climb session. But yeah, this is what I'm gonna do for the next 4 to 5 sets, and then just resting in between. Not counting the reps too much, just looking for that nice, even pain in my forearms. And gonna keep the weight probably around the same as well. So I'll show you guys the next iteration of the workout as soon as I'm done with these 4 to 5 sets. So now here comes the really weird portion of my workout. I build a lot of my equipment because it has specific purposes. And what I've learned through school and just grip strength training and following people over the years, Ulnar deviation is your wrist going like this. So your wrist moving towards your pinky side, your hand moving that way. And if you notice, you can do this on yourself too. If you flex your pinky into your palm, you can feel the side of your muscle here start to activate. So that's where your pinky muscle is, right? And the way I've found to train that is by putting resistance during ulnar deviation, which is difficult to do if you don't have the equipment. You can use a sledgehammer, which is what I used to do, where you just put the weight and you hold on to like the handle of a sledgehammer and you let it go down and up. But with a sledgehammer, it's hard to measure and the results are kind of inconsistent when you use that. So what I did is I destroyed one of my pieces of equipment that had these handles on it, and I went to Home Depot and I found one of these little eye screws, whatever you call it, and I screwed it into the bottom of it. It actually fit perfectly in there. And then I tied a rope to it, and this is a pulley attachment. So the idea is, now think of a sledgehammer, right? This would be the weight right here. Now we attach that to a pulley and we can control the resistance the whole way through. And that's how I built my own ulnar deviation strength trainer. And so that's been helping my pinky when it comes to climbing. And if you've ever climbed on crimps and you haven't noticed how much your pinky is involved in crimp strength, that's how I've been improving my crimp strength over the past 6 months, just really squeezing and focusing on my pinky strength, as well as, you know, my pointer finger and the rest of my hand. But mostly the most neglected thing is your pinky strength when it comes to training your grip, because it's the shortest finger, and it's just, usually it's these 3 that predominantly stick onto like a hangboard or something. So yeah, ulnar deviation with a strength tool is how I've been training that specific strength. So I'll show you what that looks like. It looks a little awkward, but it's kind of cool because I don't think there's anything else like this, which if there was, I wouldn't have had to build it. So I'll lower these to the bottom. I will actually take the pins completely out of my pulley machine because the resistance is so, you don't need very much resistance because it's a very weak movement, which is also an indicator of if the movement is really weak, the muscles, if you can strength train them in that position, will probably yield pretty large results, because usually when we're weak in an area, and if we can just, it means it's hard to train that area or we don't do it often. So if you can train that area and make it stronger, that will have huge macro adjustments into your strength training, because you now have trained a weak link in your training. And I've just noticed that my crimp strength has gone up like crazy because I've been training ulnar deviation. But again, it's a hard thing to train, kind of awkward, but minimal resistance on here. I'll hold these by my sides and I'll just deviate my wrist towards behind me pretty much. It's almost like you're skiing. And there's a certain point, so it's weird, when you train weaknesses, your body is trying to learn how to stabilize and activate the muscles that you're trying to train. So in the beginning stages, like the first set, it'll be hard to get that muscle in that area lit up. So I'll have to do like a high amount of reps. And then just now I'm starting to feel that specific region of my forearm starting to light up. And I'll continue doing it. Remember, isolations are a great way, or isometrics are a great way to help stimulate those areas. So right now I'm trying to focus my positioning to target my pinky and the side of my hands and the sides of my forearms, and then keep repping out, because now the sides of my forearms are very flared up and it's really starting to burn in the area that I want it to. Gotta tap my feet to avoid the pain. Okay, so that's round one. The initial round is usually just to warm up and like stimulate the area and get your body aware that, okay, I'm trying to activate this region of my body, which usually doesn't get activated. I've been doing this for a few months now, and now I know how to do it. But when I was first doing it, I could barely pull, like it was just, everything was shaking because I had no stability in that direction. And then now after a few months of training it, as you can see, it was fairly smooth. Still takes at least one set to teach my body to activate this muscle, because if you don't have the muscle there to activate it properly, then it's just going to be hard for your body to realize what you're doing, because you are trying to put muscle in an area that doesn't have any. So it's like, man, I got to learn this movement. And in the beginning stages, that's all it is. It's just learning the pattern, the proper pattern of movement, and trying to like, okay, maybe the muscles around that area that are developed will help assist to pull that. And then you'll get like a 20% build in that area. But over time, your body will start to develop muscle in the areas you want it to, hence hypertrophy, and then everything will become more stable. And then once you have muscle developed there, it's much easier to work it, because you are now able to get into that position using the muscle you've now developed. Hopefully that makes sense. But I will do this for about 4 sets. And then I will go on to, I believe, extensor. I'm gonna alternate between extensor training with a kettlebell and finger training. And that should be it for my grip strength today. Again, I still want to save a little bit in the tank for tomorrow, but I got in a bad habit of thinking that because I'm climbing tomorrow, I shouldn't train hard today. And then I might feel like shit tomorrow, right? You gotta, I feel pretty good today, so I'm trying to soak it in and like get a good workout in. And if that means that my climbing takes a little bit of a toll tomorrow, then so be it. But when you're feeling good, ride those waves, because you never know how you're gonna feel tomorrow. You could sleep like shit and not be as capable as tomorrow. And then you're gonna look back on today and you're like, man, I really should have worked out harder. So take advantage of it, be smart about it. I'm not saying go to like red line and like try to ultimately fatigue yourself, but just train to a good spot. Like I look at it like 70 to 80%. That way I get a great workout in tomorrow. It may make climbing a little harder tomorrow. I get a great workout in today. It may make climbing harder tomorrow, but I would rather yield the results from today's training and not rely on what happens tomorrow. So That's how I look at it. I got 4 more sets of this, and then I'll show you the kettlebell extensors that I do, paired with the finger training as well. I just wanted to do a quick side note. I'm still on the 4 sets of these things, but sometimes as an active rest, if I'm doing such a hyper-specific exercise, I feel the need to actively rest. And so I will actually go back to my forearm warm up, and I'll just pump out a few reps in the opposite direction. And this is working out a different muscle group, but I am an advocate for not wasting time when training, which is probably where the reason I had so much trouble making videos, because I have to pause and like, I'm figuring it out. But all I'm getting at is I will do an active rest by just trying to squeeze a little bit more of the orange, is what I like to call it, because active rest times can save you a lot of time. And if you keep the tempo and find a good rhythm in your workouts, they don't hinder your actual strength training protocol. They help amplify it, especially if you, because pinch strength is what I'm using in flexors and extensors, but ulnar deviation is like in its own category. So this isn't really hindering that movement at all, and it gives me a little extra spice to my workout. So that's all I wanted to say real quick. All right, so I'm done with the pulley machine that I was using. That's all done. I'm going to be doing kettlebell extensor curls, specifically for the forearm. It's not a perfect extensor. A perfect extensor, in my opinion, would be anything that you hold on to that you go straight up with. The kettlebell, you kind of have a more neutral grip. What I mean by that is I'll take this kettlebell, and if I were to grab the kettlebell like this and then do an extensor pull like that, that would be kind of like the perfect motion that you want. But I found with a kettlebell, I get great extension in this part of my forearm, and that helps with my pointer finger stabilization. Yeah, for strength training. Because if you think about if I were to hold something isometrically, right? I'm not just engaging this part of my muscle, I'm also engaging the top portion, because it's all helping stabilize in that position. So if my finger were to extend, this has to contract. And if I were to flex my finger, this has to contract. Now, if I were to hold my finger here and apply resistance, this is helping on the bottom and this is helping on the top, because it's holding it in both directions, right? Now, obviously, it's going to, like if I'm pulling down like this, I'm pulling down with my finger, predominantly flexors are going to be engaged, but the extensors do help with stabilizing eccentrically, because it's contracting, but in the opposite way, if that makes sense. Anyway, extensor curls with the kettlebell. Don't have a rep scheme for this, but all I'm going to do is grab the horns of the kettlebell, put my arms nice and straight on my inner thighs, and then curl that kettlebell up. And this is just an easy way to engage your extensors and work out a little bit of, I think it's radial deviation. So the opposite of what we were doing with ulnar deviation, but this is a little easier to target. And you'll notice right away, if you do this exercise, your extensors start to flare up, and I'll even just hold in this position, because now the kettlebell wants to fall, and that'll be good. Ooh, just flare them up a little bit. Right here is where I'm feeling that, but that's all this extension here. Like, so it's a little bit of, I think it's called radial deviation with your hand. So ulnar deviation, radial deviation. It makes sense because radius and ulna, but wrist deviation either way. But it's like kind of deviation, but also extension. But it works out this right here, which feels really good for stability and training when it comes to working on grip strength and like placing your hands and having that tough resistance. And you can feel right here, it causes it so your hand doesn't, whenever I notice I have a weakness sometimes when I'm on a really small crimp, that my hand will curl backwards, especially if it's like on a steep angled wall. And so what I want is I want to force my hand forward, and I want it to stay in that position right there so I can really pull into that crimp and get the most out of the climb. So yeah, I will do this alternating with my
finger training as well, and I'll take you over there. But 4 sets of this, 4 sets of that, and then I'm gonna be done for the day. But I'm gonna also tell you what I do to stretch my forearms, which is just isolated stretches or static stretches for 90 seconds. But I'll get to that in a second. I'm gonna show you my pulley system I have over here that I just lay back, because when it's grip strength, I like to be kind of lazy with it, with everything else in my body, and I want just my hands and the targets of my training to be focused on the areas that I'm training, and I don't want like any assistance from my back or my upper body or anything like that, or my hands to be over my head. Whatever the case is, I'll show you it. All right, so it's a little messy over here, but I wanted to show you what I'm using for the hangboard. This is going to be attached to my pulley lat pull down machine. It's just, I don't even know what the millimeters are on this. It feels like a 25 millimeter ledge. It's massive, but I want it to be nice and neutral, especially because I'm climbing tomorrow. And all I'm gonna do is connect it to a pulley machine that's a 1-to-1 ratio, which means whatever weight you put on it, it's going to be that weight when you pull on it. So 90 pounds, 2 45s, one on each side on the bar. And I'm going to be putting it on that, and I'm gonna be laying down. So this is what it looks like. So on the pulley machine, resistance on the hands, on the fingers. Hopefully I'm still in frame so you can see what's going on, but just like, again, kind of being lazy about it. But right now, all the resistance is on my fingers. It's a light enough weight so I can adjust my fingers to really get exactly where I want in my finger training. And this isn't necessarily strength training. This is more of like just like tendon resistance, because again, I am climbing tomorrow. So I just want it to be warming up the fingers, kind of stimulating them, getting them ready to take on a load tomorrow, and not overdoing it, not using chalk. On my strength days, I'll use chalk when I'm not climbing the next day, because we still want some left in the tank for tomorrow. But yeah, I will do 4 sets of this, and I'm just going until I feel like, okay, that's about 80%, and then I'll rest, I'll leave it back, and then I'm gonna go ping-ponging between extensors to that. So it's a really nice synergistic effect of my strength training-ish workout today. But those are the last 2 exercises I'm gonna do, and then I'll take you into the forearm stretches. Super simple, and if you're still with me, you can check those out. All right, so real quick to end this video, I know it's been a long video, but I'm getting used to filming and talking to the camera. These stretches I do for my forearms, the stretches I do for everything that I've been doing that has changed my entire world when it comes to training, which is actually one of the reasons I've started to climb grades harder, is from static stretching muscles, like every muscle you can think of in every direction for 90 seconds. It's a pain in the ass. It takes a long freaking time. But what I've noticed is when you get to like V8, V9 status, you have to have mobility, and you have to have strength and mobility. But you can't have one without the other, really. They kind of go hand in hand, and you have to train them to a certain extent. So I was hyper immobile to the climbing extent that I wanted to be in. And after about a month, little over a month of pure static stretching every day for 90 seconds, minimum 90 seconds of each muscle, that's where I've started to see results in my body and being able to maintain strength in certain high stress mobility moments. So my forearm strength, because this is specific to forearms, or my forearm mobility specific to forearms, is I will just take my hands together. Hopefully you can see this, I'm not just looking at my butt, but I will take my hands, so one here, and I'll push down like that, and I'll take my other here, and I'll push into them, and then try to rotate my elbows and like push my elbows outwards. So I'm kind of like trying to push myself forward so I get a nice forearm stretch here. But I will stretch this and hold this for 90 seconds, a minute and a half. And I'm not going to have you sit here the entire time and watch this, but it's amazing the amount of strength I've gained over time, but the interesting thing with stretching is I took a strength hit like crazy in the beginning. So my strength, so this is how I look at it. My potential and my strength were like right here, and I was at a plateau, right? My potential, sure, I could train, twice as hard, 2 times a day, whatever the case is, and hit that potential and maybe increase it a little more. But my mobility was not too great. It was down here. So my strength and my potential were here. But then when I started stretching, I could feel my strength go down, but my potential started going up. And hopefully this makes sense. My potential window went up, right? My strength went down. But now, after the past few months of strength training and focusing on mobility, my strength has gotten past, if not, or back to baseline, if not past baseline. But my potential window is way greater because now I have more mobility, and I just feel that continually going up as I continue to stretch. So from here, this little tiny gap, I went all the way to here, took a dip in strength because I was now focusing on stretching rather than strength training. But then I combined the two over time. It took about a little over a month, and now my window of potential is way up here, which is one of the reasons I've been motivated to get back into climbing and seeing how far I can take it. So this is kind of like day one, vlog one of my workout. Hopefully y'all enjoy this sort of stuff. If you leave any feedback, that would be amazing for me. If you want me to take time and review some specific pieces of equipment, like how I built some of this stuff, I have a plethora of grip strength training stuff and strength training equipment that I will slowly, pull out of the box and involve in my training, but I'm trying to show you the staple stuff that I actually use that actually works. And I'll do some reviews of other equipment here. So if you want me to review any pieces of equipment, I've had a lot of companies that will send me stuff and I'll try it out. But the biggest thing is just seeing how strong I can get in rock climbing and obstacle course racing as well, because that's another thing on the table. But hope you all like this long freaking video. I will continue to do so if you do. Even if you don't, I'll probably still make them. So take care, y'all. Peace out, and I'll see you all in the next video.